morning began quietly in the neighborhood, with soft light streaming through the window of MIA's bedroom. It was not just an ordinary day for her, there was a sense of anticipation in the air. As she stood in front of her mirror, she carefully examined herself, holding different outfits up against her body, trying to decide what to wear. She had never put this much effort into choosing clothes before. Her hands moved with slight hesitation as she adjusted her hair. Today, she wasn't wearing her usual glasses. Instead, she had chosen to wear soft contact lenses, which made her eyes appear clearer, more expressive. There was a subtle confidence in the way she looked at herself in the mirror, even though her face still carried traces of nervousness. Before she could finish her final touches, her phone began to ring. It was Yuna. "I'm on my way to pick you up," Yuna said with a smile in her voice. "Are you ready?" Almost MIA replied. Meanwhile, at Jaejo's house, Minyu was still staying over. It was another morning for him without much direction. He stood at the window, staring out into the quiet neighborhood. From there, he watched as people began their day joggers, people walking dogs, students heading off, and workers hurrying down the sidewalk. In the midst of this peaceful morning routine, Jaejo moved around the house, getting ready. He put on his usual clothes, adjusted his jacket, checked his phone, and made sure he had everything in his bag. Minyu observed him for a moment, then asked casually, "Hey, where are you going?" Jaejo didn't even pause. "Student council meeting," he replied, fastening his bag. "Take me with you." "I'm bored," Minyu said, sitting up from the floor with hopeful eyes. "No," Jaejo said immediately, blunt and cold as usual. "Come on, just this once." Minyu winced, but Jaejo didn't even look back. Minyu sighed and slumped back in defeat, the silence between them once again settling like dust. Elsewhere, at a cafe chosen by Yuna as the new venue for the student council meeting, the atmosphere was less than formal. Some members were already seated, but instead of organizing papers or discussing agenda items, they were holding hands, whispering, and laughing with each other like couples on a date. Their obvious romantic behavior made other members feel increasingly uncomfortable. Yuna hadn't expected this. She had chosen the cafe to make things feel more relaxed and refreshing, but she didn't think it would become a dating spot then. Out of nowhere, Dom appeared. He wasn't invited. He wasn't even a student council member, but that didn't stop him from casually pulling out a chair and joining the meeting like it was the most natural thing in the world. No one stopped him either. His presence was too chaotic and unpredictable. Suddenly, all attention turned toward the entrance. Mia had arrived, but not the Mia they all knew. Today, she looked completely different. Her long hair was neatly styled, her skin was glowing with makeup, and most shockingly, she wasn't wearing her glasses. She had replaced them with soft lenses, which made her eyes sparkle. For a moment, the room fell silent as everyone tried to register who this girl was. Then came the realization it was MIA. Even Dom blinked in surprise. "Whoa, who's the new girl?" Yuna grinned. "I told you to try something new." On the other side of the cafe, a group of students from Gun Industrial High School sat at another table. Among them was Sung Kwan, a quiet but intense student. He scowled at the noise coming from the student council group. "Too loud," he muttered under his breath, obviously annoyed by the giggles and chatting nearby. At the same table was Vinny Hong. Vinny Hong stood out wherever he went. His bright red hair and crimson eyes, likely from colored contact lenses, made him look intimidating. His reputation followed him like a shadow, and, unsurprisingly, a group of other customers began to whisper and gossip about him from across the room. It didn't take long before Vinny Hong noticed. He stood up slowly, his eyes locked onto the group of students, whispering about him. His face hardened. The tension in the cafe shifted immediately. Vinny Hong approached them with a slow, deliberate walk. His presence alone silenced the group, but his expression showed he wasn't there to talk. He was about to lash out, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. Dom, who had been watching the situation unfold, stepped in before things could get worse. He moved quickly, getting between Vinny Hong and the others. His tone was calm, trying to defuse the situation, but his interruption only made Vinny Hong more agitated. Vinny's red eyes flared with anger. The cafe froze. What had started as a relaxed student council meeting now teetered on the edge of chaos. All eyes turned toward the standoff, unsure of what would happen next. And in the middle of it all, Jaejo was on his way, unaware of what was waiting at that cafe. Inside the cafe, the tension had reached a boiling point. The air was thick with silence after the sudden outburst from Vinny Hong. His fiery red hair and intense crimson eyes made him look like a force of nature that couldn't be stopped. He had already lost his temper over the gossip being whispered nearby, and now he was fully prepared to escalate the situation. Standing across from him was Dom, who had stepped in to stop the fight from happening. Dom didn't show fear, but the atmosphere made it clear this wasn't just a small confrontation anymore. Vinny Hung's chest was rising and falling with rage, and everyone could feel that he was one wrong word away from throwing a punch. Without hesitation, Vinny Hung reached out and slapped the cap off of Dom's head. The room gasped. The cap flew through the air, landing with a soft thud on the floor. Dom single quote's eyes narrowed. He didn't flinch. His fists slowly clenched at his sides, the tension in his body rising. For a split second, it looked like Dom was ready to fight back. His face turned serious, calm, but dangerous. But just as Dom was about to raise his fist, "Stop." "Why?" Yuna's voice cut through the air. She stepped forward, her tone firm but calm. "Dom, don't. Not this time." Dom held his breath for a moment, then, slowly, he let his fist relax. His eyes moved away from Vinny Hung and toward Yuna. Without saying a word, he nodded. He listened. From the other side, Sung Kwan, the stoic student from Gun Industrial High School, finally spoke. He looked directly at Vinny Hung. "Enough," he said. "Let's end this here, before it gets out of hand." Vinny Hung looked at him. His breathing slowed. He didn't say anything, but his body language shifted. Slowly, without another word, he turned away and left the cafe. The tension melted, and people began to breathe again. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a beautiful young woman walked through the streets. Her name was Shelley, granddaughter of the school principal. Her steps were light, but purposeful. She looked like she was on her way somewhere, her long hair flowing behind her as her heels clicked softly against the pavement. Because of her stunning appearance, she naturally drew attention. People passing by turned their heads. One man in particular, bold and smiling, approached her. He tried to strike up a conversation. "Hey, are you from around here?" he asked with a grin. Shelley glanced at him. She didn't seem too interested but responded politely. The man kept talking, clearly more invested in the interaction than she was. He kept pushing the conversation, making comments, asking questions. Shelley played along just enough not to seem rude, but it was obvious she wasn't interested. Then the man asked for her phone number. Shelley smiled faintly, then gave him a fake number and a fake name. It was almost too obvious. Her expression didn't change, but the tone in her voice made it clear that she had no intention of actually staying in contact with him. The man didn't seem to catch on, or maybe he just didn't care. At the same time, not too far away, Joe was riding his bicycle through the streets. He was on his way to the student council meeting, pedaling steadily and focused on the road ahead. Suddenly, out of nowhere, two people on a motorcycle appeared behind him. They wore masks and were moving suspiciously fast and erratic. Joe noticed them right as they zoomed past him. Just ahead, Shelley was still walking along the sidewalk. She didn't see it coming. The two masked riders zipped by her, and one of them reached out and snatched her bag right out of her hand. Her eyes widened in shock. Joe didn't hesitate. He didn't ask questions, he didn't shout. The moment he saw what happened, his instincts took over. He leaned forward on his bike and shot forward with full force, chasing after the two thieves without a second thought. His tires screeched slightly as he cut corners, weaving through the street traffic. Eyes locked on the two figures ahead, the chase had begun. The hum of city life was punctuated by urgent footsteps and the screech of tires as Shelley stood frozen in shock. Only moments before, two masked men on a motorcycle had snatched her bag. The suddenness of the heist had left her momentarily paralyzed, but then she saw him. Without a word, a lone figure on a bicycle shot forward with laser focus. It was Joe. His posture was low, his gaze unwavering. The determination radiating from him told her he'd come to protect her even without her asking. Joe pedaled furiously, weaving through the early afternoon traffic. Every strike of his foot reached deeper and faster than the one before. The chase was on. He knew the risk of riding so fast, especially on public roads, but there was no room for hesitation. Seconds counted. On a nearby sidewalk, someone had left a safety helmet hanging on a stand. In one fluid movement, Jay reached out, grabbed it, and slid it onto his head, all while maintaining his speeding momentum. The helmet clicked into place, a small protection that mattered more now than 10 seconds ago. Back inside the cafe, the student council meeting had stalled. Yuna sat quietly, trying to get attention, but the atmosphere had shifted from agenda to amusement. Mia, glancing at Dom, spotted a small plaster under his nose that didn't seem to fit. Gently, she asked, "Is that a cut?" Dom froze, eyes darting, realizing he'd been caught. One by one, Other members focused their attention on him, filling the air with amused curiosity. The murmur grew until Dom, red-faced, glanced at Yuna. With a pleading look, "Don't tell anyone," he whispered hoarse-like out at the center of the table. Dom pulled back the bandage, and everyone's attention locked in. Below it, a thin strip of facial hair, a mustache, revealed itself. Laughter erupted as Dom explained the truth. He'd taken on a part-time gig as a DJ because he was underage. He'd grown the mustache to appear older and avoid suspicion. Even Yuna chuckled, covering her mouth so Dom wouldn't see, while Mia rolled her eyes affectionately. Then Dom's face changed. His mustache seemed to crumble him, and he whispered, half to himself, "He's back. Dad got home today." The room hushed as the gravity of that simple statement sank in. Everyone understood what that meant. Dom's father was a dangerous man. Out on the street, the chase intensified. The two masked thieves on the motorcycle could hear the pounding of JJO's pedals and acceleration they hadn't expected. Their own engine roared louder as they tried to escape, but Jay's bike didn't lose speed. As they neared a curve, JJO stayed on their tail, leaning forward, pushing against wind and momentum. The city's hustle became a blur. Sirens wailed distantly, horns beeped nervously, and ordinary pedestrians stepped aside in surprise. The motorcycle slowed slightly, tension rising inside the thief on the backseat. Their grip tightened on the stolen bag. One glanced back and all but screamed, "This kid's catching us." Their attempt to burst away brought them near a main intersection, but JJO wasn't far behind. His speed was relentless, front wheel focused, breathing steady. Jay's ears caught the rattle of their engine. Catching them meant justice and returning what was lost. He dropped low over the handlebars, eyes never leaving the thieves. The gap closed inch by inch. Inside the cafe, the student council meeting hadn't resumed. Dom stared at his reflection in his phone camera, still putting a hand to his upper lip, as if waiting for the mustache to disappear. Yuna sat closest to him, half worried, half amused. Mia, now serious again, leaned across the table. "Are you okay with Dad back in town?" she whispered. Dom's answer was subtle, but truthful, a nod. Yuna cracked a finger. "Let's get this meeting over with. Coffee, snacks, and less drama." All eyes rolled except Dom's. Outside, JJO was no longer just chasing a bike. In that moment, he was a whirlwind of justice, his focus unbreakable. The motorcycle veered sharply. Their speed picked up. JJO responded in kind. In a blur, they approached a crosswalk. The thieves slowed, uncertain. Jay's front tire drifted past the line. He surged forward. Adrenaline roared in JJO's veins as he chased the motorcycle down a winding city alley. His legs pumped with fierce intent, every turn and pedal stroke aimed at retrieving Shelly's stolen bag. He squeezed through narrow corridors, past dumpsters and crumbling walls, never losing sight of the thieves. In a split-second decision, Jay diverted from the main alleyway and launched himself over a parked car. He caught the far edge of the hood, balanced, and clattered to the pavement. Without hesitation, he veered onto the low neighborhood wall, riding along its narrow top. An impossible sight. Onlookers gasped as JJO's bicycle seemed to defy gravity. A group of children playing street soccer stopped mid-kick, eyes wide at the silhouette of a cyclist riding along the fence. Emerging onto a busy city street, the thieves slowed, thinking they'd lost their pursuer. Instead, Jay cut off their escape engine. A fierce collision rammed shoulder first into the motorcyclist with a loud thud. The rider and his bike tumbled together, stunned. The getaway driver, panicked, dropped the bag and sprinted away, shouting, "What is this, psycho?" Jay, dazed and bleeding from his forehead, knelt in the debris. He pressed his palm to his head but didn't falter as he reached for Shelly's bag. His vision blurred, but the mission was accomplished. Moments later, Shelly's taxi screeched to a halt. The driver yanked the door open, and Shelly leaped out, worry etched across her face. "Are you okay?" she cried, rushing forward. Jay steadied himself. Blood trickled, but his resolve got stronger. "I'm okay. I need to call Yuna. Tell them I'm on my way." He pulled out his phone, started toward a busier street, and called Yuna. At the cafe, the student council meeting had started, albeit without one of their key members. Yuna took charge, her phone pressed to her ear. "Everyone, Jay's been hurt chasing thieves. His head's bleeding, but he's all right. He can't be here today." A tense silence followed. Some council members whispered doubts. Did he really crash? Or is this just an excuse? But Yuna met every look with quiet firmness. "JJO won't skip on purpose," she said. "He's not like that." The room's atmosphere softened. Mia, sitting closest to the table, bit her lip. She'd prepared all morning: new clothes, soft lens contacts, and, for what? Her heart hammered with worry. Unable to stay in her seat, she excused herself and slipped into the restroom in the restroom. Mia splashed water on her face and stared at her reflection. Her heart felt heavy. She dressed up for a meeting that now felt meaningless without Jae-jo. Suddenly, there was a soft knock. "Excuse me?" Mia turned to see a well-dressed man, CJ Kim, a modeling agent and a stranger to the academic world around her. "I'm CJ Kim," he introduced himself, voice smooth. "I couldn't help noticing you from across the room. You fit the look I'm searching for. If you're interested in modeling, contact me this week." Mia blinked, startled. Her hands trembled slightly, but a curious spark flickered in her eyes. She nodded appreciatively, silently acknowledging the offer. Back in the cafe, Dom, still sporting his newfound mustache, leaned back and glanced at Yuna. "Are we continuing the meeting?" he asked, deflecting attention from himself. Yuna let out a small sigh. We just need to get through the basics." The tension lingered. Jae-jo's absence, DOM's secret revealed, MIA's unexpected encounter. It was a meeting unlike any they'd had before, layered with worry, surprise, and the promise of new beginnings. Outside, Jae-jo, bag in hand, stumbled toward a taxi stand, head throbbing. He climbed inside and sent a quick text to Yuna, "Meet me at hospital." His other hand gripped Shelley's bag. Proof he succeeded. The chase had ended, but the consequences were only beginning. The student council meeting, once full of hopeful anticipation, had clearly lost its momentum, with Jae-jo unable to attend due to his unexpected accident, and the mood in the cafe turning stale. The remaining student council members collectively decided to postpone the meeting. Conversations faded, chairs scraped against the floor, and one by one, the students began to leave. Before stepping out, Yuna Kang looked at Mia Choi, a small frown curling on her lips. "It's too bad," Yuna said with genuine regret in her voice. "Jay didn't get to see how beautiful you look today." Mia smiled faintly, but her thoughts were distant as they walked out. Yuna's curiosity finally got the better of her. "That guy who talked to you earlier?" she asked casually. "Who was he?" Mia responded calmly. "He's from a modeling agency." "Why?" Yuna's eyes widened slightly. "Wait, was it from that agency? The one with all the big-name models?" Mia gave a small nod. "I think so." Yuna blinked in surprise. She knew the agency. It was one of the most well-known fashion houses in the country. The idea of Mia being approached by someone from there didn't seem odd. It only confirmed what Yuna already believed. Mia had something special. Meanwhile, Jae-jo had made his way to a local bike repair shop, his head still bandaged lightly from the accident earlier that day. He entered the shop, still holding the same quiet but determined expression he always wore. "I need to get my bike fixed," he said plainly. The shop looked like any other from the outside, but inside it held memories Jay didn't expect. The woman behind the counter glanced up from her tools. She was casually dressed and had a confident presence. Jay didn't recognize her, but she recognized him instantly. Unbeknownst to him, she was the same live commentator who had broadcast the infamous race between Manhwa and Jae-jo. Her eyes narrowed playfully as she studied his face. "You're that kid," she said, snapping her fingers as if trying to remember the details. "From the stream? Manhua's rival?" Jay blinked slowly, unsure how to respond. "I don't know what you're talking about." She shrugged and turned toward the bike. After a quick inspection, her tone shifted to something more serious. "Your front wheel is completely bent. Rim shot. It's going to take a couple days to get it back in shape." While waiting, Jay looked around the small workshop. On the wall, a large poster caught his attention. It featured a professional cyclist, mid-Ross, his body positioned with perfect form, eyes focused forward. Jay's eyes widened. He muttered. The woman noticed his reaction and smirked. "You know him, don't you?" she said, clearly already knowing the answer. Jay nodded. "Yeah, that's my uncle." She raised both brows. "Your uncle? No way." She walked over, tapping the bottom of the poster. "He's a legend. I'm actually the president of his fan club." Jay remained quiet, his eyes fixed on the poster. Something about it pulled memories to the surface, memories of a time when cycling meant more than just escaping his world. The woman continued working on the bike. "Come back in 2 days. It should be good as new." As Jay turned to leave, the woman called out to him again. "Hey," she said, "there's a competition coming up. League of Street, big prize, 100 million won. Winner gets a ticket to compete internationally. You should enter." Jay didn't even pause. "No thanks." He stepped outside, ready to head home. Outside the shop, Jay reached into his pocket, searching for his wallet. His hands moved quickly through his jacket, then his pants. Panic crept Onto his face, it was gone. His wallet was missing. Elsewhere, Shelley, the mysterious girl who had earlier been rescued by Jay, stood calmly in the office of her grandfather, who happened to be the principal of the school. She stood tall and confident as she made her request. "I want to transfer here," she said firmly. The principal leaned back in surprise. "Here? Why the sudden interest?" Shelley hesitated for a moment, then reached into her bag and pulled something out. Joe's wallet. She had found it at the scene of the accident. Inside was a student ID, a few worn photos, and perhaps something that had drawn her interest even more, a silent but meaningful piece of Jay's life. "I have my reasons," Shelley replied quietly, her gaze steady. The principal looked at her with a curious expression. He didn't press her, but in that moment, one thing was clear. Whatever Shelley had seen in Jay, whether it was his courage, his strength, or the way he flew down the streets on nothing but a bicycle, it was enough to change her path completely. And now, they were on a course to cross again, this time, not as strangers, but as classmates.